All right, let's talk about Android. You know, that little green robot that probably lives in your pocket. But the story of how Android absolutely took over the world and the complete chaos that followed is way more interesting than you'd think. So let's get right into it.
So, I want to start by asking you something. The version of Android running on your phone right now, is that the real Android? Well, the answer is kind of complicated. It's yes and no. And that little paradox is where this whole story really kicks off.
You see, Android really lives a double life. Think of it like a recipe for a cake. On one side, you have the Android Open Source Project, ASOP for short. That's the basic recipe: the flour, the eggs, the sugar. It's free, it's open, anyone can use it. But on the other side, you have Google's Android. That's the fully baked, decorated cake from the best bakery in town. It has all the good stuff you actually want, like the Play Store, Google Maps, and Gmail.
So ASOP is really the heart of everything. It's that free open source foundation that let anyone, from a giant company like Amazon building their Fire tablets to some developer just tinkering in their garage, build their own version of Android. And that open, here, take it, do what you want with it strategy. That was the secret sauce to its complete and total world domination.
And when I say domination, I am not exaggerating. The sheer scale of Android's success is it's absolutely mind-boggling. Let's just look at the numbers for a second. By 2026, it's projected that there will be 3.9 times billion active Android users. That's almost half the entire population of planet Earth using this operating system. Just let that sink in.
And here's what that looks like in the market. In 2025, Android is on track to control almost 3/4 of the entire global mobile OS market. To put that in perspective, for every single iPhone out there, there are more than 2.5 Android devices. It's not even a competition on a global scale.
And if you zoom in on huge booming markets like India and Brazil, it's even more extreme. Android has over 85% of the market. Now, things are a lot closer here in the US for sure, but Android is still an absolute powerhouse. But, and this is a big but, all of that incredible success came at a price.
Because that open strategy, the very thing that made Android a global behemoth, also created this huge, messy, chaotic ecosystem that was, for a long time, kind of a disaster.
Back in 2014, one tech journalist famously called the Android ecosystem a toxic hell stew. Okay, maybe a little dramatic, but it perfectly captured the massive problem of fragmentation that drove users crazy for years.
So what even is fragmentation? Well, it's this incredibly complicated game of telephone. When Google releases a new update, it doesn't just go to your phone. Oh no. First, it has to go to the company that made the chip, like Qualcomm. Then it goes to the company that made the phone, like Samsung. And then, sometimes, it even has to go to your cell carrier, like Verizon. Every single one of those steps adds months and months of delay.
And those delays, they had really serious security consequences. A report in 2020 found that over 1 billion older devices were basically sitting ducks for hackers because they just weren't getting security updates anymore. This left the door wide open for nasty spyware like Pegasus and all sorts of other attacks.
So, faced with this total chaos, Google realized it had to step in. For the better part of a decade now, they have been systematically trying to tame their own creation and get some control back.
And one of their most genius solutions is something called Project Mainline. They basically broke the Android operating system into smaller, modular pieces. Now, Google can push really important security updates for those core pieces directly to your phone through the Google Play Store, just like updating any other app. It's a brilliant way to just bypass all those middlemen and get updates to you faster. And that's not all they've done. They've built this whole multi-layered defense system. You've got Google Play Protect, which is constantly scanning billions of apps for malware. Then there's something called an application sandbox, which basically builds a wall around each app so that if one goes bad, it can't infect your whole phone. And of course, with every new version of Android, you get way more control over what data your apps can access.
Google's control isn't just about code either. It's also contractual. Through something called the Open Handset Alliance, they essentially forbid companies from creating competing versions of Android, what they call forks, like what Amazon did with its Fire OS. It's a way to keep the ecosystem from splintering into 1 million incompatible pieces.
So, with the ecosystem now much more stable, much more secure, Google is pushing Android into its next big chapter, a world driven by artificial intelligence and what they're calling ambient computing. The whole mission for Android has fundamentally changed. It's not just about the rectangle in your pocket anymore. The new goal is to create one single intelligent platform that seamlessly powers your entire life.
And at the absolute center of this new world is Gemini. This is the super powerful AI that has officially replaced Google Assistant. It's not just an app, it's being woven right into the fabric of Android itself. It can summarize your emails for you, connect information between your apps to give you helpful suggestions, and even create images and text on the fly.
And this is that Android Everywhere strategy coming to life. That same core OS is now on your watch with Wear OS, it's in your car with Android Automotive, it's on your TV, and now with Android XR, it's moving into virtual and augmented reality to take on giants like Apple and their Vision Pro.
Which brings us to one final, really important question. The story of Android has always been this tug of war between openness and control. So as this AI-powered system moves beyond our phones and becomes this constant ambient presence in our cars, on our wrists, and even over our eyes, who's really in control? Is it you, or is it the ecosystem?